today with a Shadow Box Card Spring Add-on Extended Scene Card. I am a huge fan of the Shadow Box cards, and I wanted to find a way to make it look a little bit more like a traditional card, but still have the fun interactive feel. So we're going to be creating a card base that is the same height as the Shadow Box, but it's going to be the width of a regular card, which creates an extended scene for the front of the card, and when you open it, it has that great shadow box pop-up, but also an extended scene for the inside panels of our card base. Let's trim our card base from Mermaid cardstock to 2 3/4 by 11 inches. So I'm taking a standard sheet of cardstock, trimming it down, and then we're going to take that strip, score it in half at 5.5 inches to create our card base. It's going to be a much narrower card base, but it's going to give us so much more real estate, and it's going to be a lot more traditional in the fact that it looks a lot more like a traditional card. We're going to be using tons of add-ons today and dies to create this die cut scene card, starting with our card base for the shadow box. So we're using 2 die cut panels from Mermaid cardstock from the shadow box card, and we're going to take the shadow box card park add-on window and die cut this from one of the sides, from one of the fronts of the panel for the shadow box itself. We're going to start with the shadow box, and we're going to assemble that, and then I will show you how to decorate the rest of the card design. What I love is that any of the windows from the add-ons are interchangeable with the shadow box, so you can really customize and create whatever window you want. I love this half circle window as far as it really gives you a lot of real estate to see inside the shadow box for a really big scene, which is what I'm doing today. I'm taking a bone folder and making sure the score lines are nice and creased, and then taking some of the double-sided tape from lawnfawn and putting it on those 2 long ends. We're going to remove one of the sides of tape from one of the tabs to make this long strip, which is going to essentially be our shadow box pop-up for the inside of the card. I'm not going to adhere the other side yet, because I want to create all of our layers inside of the shadow box. So here's kind of what it's going to look like. I wanted to show you how it'll work inside the card. I have pre-die cut some elements for the inside of my card, including that grass border with the tabs. This is from the Park add-on, and it's obviously going to work exactly inside our shadow box. Well, I wanted to try one of the border dies from lawnfawn with this, and so I am taking the mushroom border and I'm simply going to trim this down. I'm going to need to trim off parts of those mushrooms as well, but I'm going to just start by trimming down this border to fit back behind the grass. So we're going to layer these 2 elements. This is kind of what it's going to look like, and then I will trim that down some more after I get the mushrooms decorated. I was looking for lots and lots of ways to implement some of my favorite lawnfawn standalone dies. This is a fantastic project for standalone dies, as it really gives you the ability to create all kinds of scenes. Whether it's a spring scene, maybe consider Christmas scenes with the Christmas images, Halloween, summer images. You could do all kinds of things. I have tons of ideas in my head for more die cut scene cards like this. In addition to all of our elements, I went ahead and inked a lot of them with either dye ink, in this case some jalapeno ink from lawnfawn for the grassy edges, and also the flower borders from the spring add-on will have that as well. Or I took copic markers and added shading to the images with that. For the mushrooms, I used E30, 31, and 55 for the stems. And I wasn't terribly neat with the mushroom border. I trimmed it so it would fit behind perfectly, and I glued it back behind the grass. I can trim that down as much as I need to. I'm going to need to trim down the sides of the mushrooms on the end. Just because of how I trimmed this, I might have done it differently if I had been planning a little bit better. But you could do this very, very easily. I'm going to color in and shade the mushroom caps, which have all been die cut from Chili Pepper Lawnfawn Cardstock, and pop those in place. I'm using some tweezers to not only hold these down while I'm coloring and adding some shading, very fast coloring, not anything super specific. And then I'm using them to hold on to the images as I add glue and put them and layer them onto the mushroom border. I'm using liquid glue for almost everything here on my card. Any of the die cuts adhere that are not a big strip, I am using liquid adhesive. The only exception to that is going to be the long strips on the front of the card. I'm going to use a tape runner, and then I'm going to put some little clear acetate spikes or little picks, I call them, inside of the pop-up itself to attach the jumping bunny and butterflies so it appears that they're floating and jumping. Those are all going to be adhered with glue dots. My tape, my double-sided tape, is used for any of the tabs for the assembly. For example, we're going to just remove that double-sided adhesive from one of the sides, just one, until we get all of our borders assembled inside the shadow box. I found it easiest to work on one aspect of the card at a time. For this, the shadow box itself, then we're going to flip to the front and completely decorate the front of the card, and then we're going to work on the two sides inside the card, which are going to be to the left of the shadow box and then to the right of the shadow box, which gives you that full extended scene when you open up the entire card. What I love about this extended scene or creating more of a traditional style with a pop-up is with the shadow box card, there's not a super great place for a handwritten sentiment. You could always use the back of the box is kind of what I've done before. But if you want more of the traditional design, this gives you a space, especially I would say probably over on the right side of the card. And I left a little bit of room kind of down in the grass where you could put, write just a tiny little message to the recipient and sign your name. It's not going to need a ton more than that. And I've also added an extra sentiment there as well. Now this is the flower border. This is the spring add-on, which works with any of the designs, but I have layered on my flowers here. Again, used jalapeno ink to ink up the grass. I used a yellow marker for the tulips, and then I've got pink and purple flowers. So there is my second border. We're going to have a border in between these two, which is another grass border that I'm going to actually add carrots to. Because this is an Easter scene, I went through my lawnfawn dies and looked for Easter images. So there's my three borders. I went ahead and just added that really quick. That grass border is from the park add-on again. But Easter images such as these carrots, we're going to pop these carrots into that center panel inside our shadow box and also scattered throughout the rest of the card design. This is from the Tiny Gift Box Bunny add-on. So totally a set that I'm not using for this card, but the carrot is the right size for my design. So I'm using the carrot from that. I've used these carrots loads this year for die cut cards. I really love this. This is the smaller one. There is also a stitched garden border from Lawnfawn where you could have a bigger carrot, which works for bigger scenes. But where I'm using all these small bunnies, I think this works the best, this small one. This tree is amazing, and it's going to be featured throughout the entire card design, and I think it really serves to create a cohesive design. This tree is from the park add-on. Probably one of my favorite dies, simply because you're going to see it and see why. It's going to create this illusion of this scene and this garden where the trees flow not only from the shadow box, but they're going to flow from the front of the card where I've used it to frame up my front to the inside of the card. And when you put them back to back, it makes a much bigger tree, which I think you'll see a little bit after I have assembled the whole card and put it together. At the end of this, I will show you what the card looks like and how it looks like when you take it out of an envelope and open it up. I am adding shading with Copic markers to my trees as well. They are going to frame up the front of our shadow box, which this just, look at how awesome these are and how beautifully it frames up the scene going on in our shadow box. I absolutely love this tree. We will take these same pieces, just like we've put on the front. We are going to put these on the back of our shadow box as well, so that when you look through, it's going to give the illusion of this forest. Definitely the look I'm going for. Now, what I noticed right away that I did not like is that along the bottom edge, there's that blue strip from our shadow box that I think really takes away from the scene. So I pulled up really quick because the glue was still not adhered to the bottom of the trees. I just pulled that up, and what we're going to be doing is taking the Park add-on grassy border, and I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to trim the side, the tabs off. I'm going to trim down the height of this border and ink it up with our jalapeno ink, and then glue that down to the front of this, back behind our tree bases, and then glue our tree bases back down in place. Look how much more cohesive that looks. Just such a simple little thing that really makes the inside of this card look so much better. This will also flow then to the two sides of the card as well. We are going to quickly glue down our tree pieces inside on the inside back of our shadow box. As I mentioned a second ago with the tree, we want the trees to look like it's going back behind into this forest. So we're framing up the back of the shadow box just like we did the front. Once we have these trees down in place, I'm going to assemble the shadow box. We're going to take the adhesive off that final tab. I will tell you I made a slight error that I did rectify in the finished card. You want to adhere that tab to the back of the box, not the inside, because if you adhere it to the inside, it will cover up this tree. You do not want it to cover up this tree. I accidentally, when I took the adhesive off and shut this, I did that, which was kind of a big bummer. But I was able to take some undo adhesive remover and fix that, because that tab is hidden when we have the card base like we're creating today. I've got bunnies here. These bunnies are from the spring add-on. So cute. In addition to the spring add-on, we will have a final bunny, which is on the front, and he's also featured on the inside left. And that bunny is from the spring house add-on. So he's the same size as these bunnies. It gives you 3 options for bunnies, and I wanted lots of bunnies throughout my scene. These 2 bunnies, I am going to go ahead and add some color to those with warm gray markers. The bunny jumping, my favorite way to add him to the shadow box is with a clear little spike. I have leftover acetate pieces that I just keep in a little folder. They're usually leftovers from creating shaker cards, but all you need is skinny little strips, and then you adhere one end to the back of the image that you want to appear to be, in this case, jumping. The butterflies I want to appear to be flying. They're going to be adhered exactly the same. And then you put glue dots down on the bottom of this and tuck it behind the layer in the shadow box. So you can see I'm adding that. There's no way to make him look like he's jumping and have him securely adhered unless you use a clear product like this. And the clear product makes it look like he's jumping so that it doesn't take away. White cardstock would really take away from the design. The acetate is also nice and strong, so it holds those images up. The sitting bunny, love this bunny. He is so cute. We are going to adhere him sitting in the front, the foreground of our design, kind of down here by the tree trunk on the right side. Now their eyes are going to need some embellishing, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. As I was talking about adding spring and Easter themed dies to this and kind of shopping my collection and seeing what I had, there are Easter eggs in several lawnfawn die collections. This particular one, it's probably about the smallest one there is from the Spring House add-on. I picked it because it's small. I thought in scale it works really well. We're going to have eggs scattered throughout this design as well. Eggs kind of tucked here and there, kind of like an Easter egg hunt. We'll have a few on the front of the card. So carrots and eggs kind of make an appearance throughout this card design. There's also this great little basket from the Chicken Duck add-on, and that will be featured a couple times as well. I'm removing the other side of adhesive from my layers inside the shadow box. It is time to assemble this. I want to make sure they're lined up exactly, and then we're going to press down our shadow box. We've not actually assembled it yet. And there are our layers. Look how cute that is. So at this point, if you only want to create your shadow box, you could add a sentiment if you wanted to. You could add a layer to any of these panels, the sides, the back, and you could really be done. If all you wanted was the shadow box, maybe you just want to create a decoration. The shadow box is super cute as is. But then I went ahead and assembled it because we're going to be popping this inside our card. So on the left side panel, I am putting double-sided adhesive. I want to use something strong. And on the back, double-sided adhesive. And I'm using the lawnfawn double-sided adhesive. I love this adhesive. It's fantastic for this. And then we are going to take our card base and we are going to put this into our card base. So I'm removing the backing from the adhesive. And we are going to take our folded card base, that 2 3/4 by 5.5 inch card base, and we are going to tuck our shadow box into the scored crease of this card. And look at that. There is our card. How cute! Now we are just going to repeat basically everything that we've already done to create extended scenes and to decorate the front of our card. So the front of our card, I decided to take the mushroom border, and this is the grass from the mushroom border, and this is going to be across the bottom of our card base. So I die cut it pretty substantial size, and before I adhere it, I want to stamp my sentiment for the card. So I've got Happy Easter to Some Bunny Special from the Extra Amazing Easter stamp set, stamped with the Lawnfawn Clear Embossing Ink, heat embossed with the Lawnfawn White Embossing Powder. We're going to ink up the border with jalapeno ink and the ink blending brushes after we have embossed it. You could do it before if you wanted to. I waited because if the ink was still a little wet, I didn't want the embossing powder flakes to stick to it, and it's easy enough to remove any ink from the embossed area with a dry paper towel. Then I did go ahead and assemble the mushroom border just like I did for the shortened one inside the shadow box. We colored in the stems with copic markers, we colored in the mushroom caps with copic markers and added shading, and layered those on top of the vanilla malt border. That is vanilla malt and chili pepper lawnfawn cardstocks. The grass is cilantro. And then this is where I'm talking about the trees from the park add-on being used throughout and how they really frame up the card beautifully. So I've got more trees that we're going to put on either side of the front of our card base. And look how amazing that looks, you guys. I absolutely love how this frames up the front of the card so beautifully. In addition, from the Spring House add-on, there's these smaller trees. If we tuck them back behind our mushroom cap border, it gives the illusion of trees far off in the distance. We're going to add some shading with our copic markers to these as well. but I'm going to do one on either side, and that fills in the sky and also gives the illusion of a very full forest garden scene. Little dot detail for the trees. And then what we have left for the front of the card is a bunny. We're going to add some little grass pieces. These are from the Mushroom House and the Spring House add-on. So I've used those from both. We'll ink those up with jalapeno ink. We've got a butterfly from the Spring House that we're going to tuck onto the sky. The butterflies will be making an appearance throughout the design as well. I have not added those to the shadow box, but I will. We've got some tulips, and because we're using that small border, the one from the Spring Shadow Box add-on inside the card, and it will be featured throughout the entire thing, I felt like we needed some flowers on the front of the card. Really love this flower stem and tulip from the Mushroom House. Go ahead and grab that from that die set, and we are going to die cut that from Noble Fir Cardstock. Any of the darker green you see, treetops, flower stems, those are all Noble Fir Cardstock. Grass along the and borders are all Cilantro. We're going to add the tulips kind of throughout this design. The tulips were die cut from Lawnfawn Sunflower and Fake Tan cardstocks. And then we've got our bunny. He's going to be sitting kind of in the grass there. I need to add some shading to him because that adds lots of detail. Just a little bit of warm gray marker to that. Plus we'll have some Easter eggs. And then the basket, that is from the Chicken Duck add-on. And we've tucked a carrot from the bunny add-on inside of our basket. So consider this, this project, kind of take a break from this for a minute. If you wanted to and you are creating those chick and duck and bunny gift boxes, if you're having an Easter dinner and maybe they're your place settings, you could decorate, you could combine the carrots and the baskets and even the egg. You could add those to your tiny gift boxes. How fun would that be? I love mixing and matching. It's my very favorite thing to do in any type of creating. And so kind of shopping, I call it shopping from my stash, and pulling all of these elements together for a card is my favorite thing. I absolutely love it, and I think that it really is what makes this scene so special. Some Nuvo crystal drops in ebony was used for the eyes of the bunny. If you don't have that, you could always use little black gemstones. You could take white little tiny gemstones if you have them, and color them in with a black copic marker or a black Sharpie and add those to your bunny's eyes to add that. Now this is a little clearer spike again that I have butterflies. My butterflies are from multiple lawnfawn collections. There's little butterflies everywhere, and I'm adding those to the background of my shadow box. There's actually going to end up being two. I added the pink one, and then I came back and I'm going to add a little yellow one die cut from Lawnfawn Sticky Note cardstock so that there's a couple of butterflies in the background of my shadow box. So basically the front of our card is finished. We finished building that scene, and now when we look at our card, we need to open that up and finish off the detail. I did add a black glossy gel pen body to the butterflies and then some antenna with a fine tip black pen. And I will continue to do that throughout my card creation. But now we need to work on the inside of the card. This is what makes it so cohesive and what creates that extended scene. I am going to then, on the left side and then the right, which there'll be two little spots on the right, we're going to take the flower add-on from the Spring add-on, or the Spring Shadow Box add-on, and that's going to be used all across the rest of the card. That's going to be our landscaping. We're also going to add the tree to either side of our shadow box, and this is what gives that bigger looking tree. Probably my favorite element of the card. we're going to add our flowers. We're going to layer them just like we did inside. We are going to add our tree, or the smaller trees, on each side to give that illusion of depth and dimension. We're going to trim down our flower border for each of these sections. And I'm just speeding through this. This is a repetition of all of the elements we've done before. We're just simply filling in all of those tabs so that it really creates this special scene that just looks like an extension of what we've already created. Layering the flowers adds that fantastic pop of color because we've got lots of greens and browns with all the trees and the grass and everything. Look how fun! It's starting to come to life. I love it. Love those trees on either side of the shadow box. That was really a happy coincidence when I realized that when you add those like that, it makes the tree look bigger and just kind of fuller. I did stamp a sentiment over on the right side that says, "Hope it's extra amazing." I'm going to tell you guys that was an experiment that almost went wrong. I would stamp this before you put your shadow box inside your card, just because it's going to be a lot easier to stamp, or completely leave it out altogether. Great place to add a little handwritten sentiment to the recipient. Here is a look at the finished card. In an envelope, it is a little bit thick. You might have to add extra postage just because it's got so many layers and it's interactive, but it does fit. When you take it out, look how cute the front is. And then when you open it up, the recipient is in for this fantastic surprise of this pop-up element. So here's what it would look like if it was just the shadow box. That's another one I've created, just the shadow box. But this is what it looks like with an extended scene. I hope this has inspired you guys to try creating an extended scene shadow box pop-up card. It is definitely worth it. I think it creates a super special card, and it's just so much fun to mix and match all of our lawnfawn dies for a die cut scene card. There are my little butterflies in the background, the bunny that's popped up, eggs, carrots, all scattered throughout, and of course the beautiful flowers, trees everywhere. Very, very fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this shadow box card spring extended scene card. Please be sure to visit the Lawnfawn blog for more information on this project. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.